Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott, back again for another episode of the Nolecast. We'll always start the podcast tipping our hats to the people. New Iberia, Louisiana hot sauce, 3 simple ingredients, 1 fantastic product. And if you're listening to the Braves or a lot of postseason baseball right now, you'll hear a lot about Louisiana hot sauces. They're not only the title sponsor of the Nolecast for 6 years or so, they are also the title sponsor of the Atlanta Braves radio network. So I've heard a lot of Louisiana ad reads recently, bud. It's been fun.
No doubt, man. Really appreciate those guys continuing to sponsor us. Just a great product, Tarpon Sellers as well. But you know what's not really a great product this year, Ingram? UMass football. And that's why we're here tonight, to give you the most comprehensive 45-minute breakdown of UMass football that we possibly can. No, in all seriousness, I think I've said this before. I actually do enjoy doing these game preview episodes. I like breaking down the opponent to see kind of what they do and what they can't do. In this case, there's a lot of stuff that UMass doesn't do very well, to be frank. They do have a win on the year. They got a win over UConn, but this spread is 36 for a reason. I know we were chatting beforehand. If you look at some various power ratings out there, Jacksonville State would actually be a favorite over these guys, dude.
Yeah, I would expect that. I tried to watch a little bit of UMass. Almost said UConn there, but I did try to watch a little bit of UMass.
I watched UConn too, because that was the game I watched.
Yeah,
that was the game they won.
The few that's available on decent television, but I just got distracted, to be honest with you. I ended up watching a movie. I ended up watching about a 7-minute YouTube. I went down the UMass football rabbit hole, watched a little video about the facilities, and they've got a decent facility there, but it's obvious that when Walt Bell's trying to throw his sales pitch fastball, it's maybe like a pitcher that doesn't quite believe he can really get it by the batter. Seems a wee bit of an empty sale at times, I have to say.
Man, I have them 129th right now in my power ratings. They're kind of tied with like New Mexico State and UConn, who they beat. UConn, of course, had COVID on offense that week, so the head coach and 2 starting offensive linemen, I think another kid, also missed the game there on that one. I remember that because I actually bet UConn or UMass, but I also bet the over. So the over didn't hit because, obviously, like UConn is a bad enough offense without COVID. With COVID, they're kind of a special brand of bad. But UMass did go ahead and get that dub there. Ingram, would you like to hear what their post-game win expectancies were so far in their 6 games?
Please, absolutely.
All right. At Pitt, lost 7-51. Post-game win expectancy, as you might expect, 0. So that wasn't a fluky 7-51. That was a pretty well-earned 7-51 loss. Boston College, 28-45. You might think they're competitive there. Not really. Actually, a ton of garbage time points. Post-game win expectancy, 4%. Mm-hmm. Eastern Michigan, a team that has had a lot of injury this year, 28-42. Post-game win expectancy, 41%. So actually, kind of hung around there a little bit. At Coastal Carolina, 3-53. 3-53. 0%, as you might expect there. Toledo, a team that can't score at all this year, 45-7. Again, 0. And then last, they're coming off a bye, so always dangerous. Off a bye here, 77% over UConn, or COVID UConn. COVID? I don't know. That's probably not appropriate to make that joke, but all right. So really, this is a football team that is just, they're not competitive. That doesn't mean they don't play hard, but they're lacking in quite a few areas. In fact, I totaled it up, and in all the stat categories that I track, they are actually outside the top 100 in 90% of them. You want to hear where they're not outside the top 100?
Yeah, I think I remember from seeing some of this stuff earlier in the week, but yeah please do. That which is not illuminated in the darkest to brightest of reds.
Yeah. So defensive power success rate. They do a decent, if you get in 3rd and short, it's not an automatic win. They actually kind of are okay with that. Air yards per pass. Not everybody just chucks it deep on them all the time. Interestingly, they have hit some marginal, some explosiveness through the air. on offense. Not normally. Mostly that's just we'll get into how they do it in a second. They have avoided 3rd and long somewhat, I guess, but they've definitely avoided 3rd and short quite a bit, which, I mean, hey, it's hard to get 3rd and short if your offense is this bad. Let me see. Defensive 3rd and short success rate kind of pairs with stopping the run pretty well in short yardage situations. And Ingram, there is a spot where they are number 1 in the country. Literally number 1 in the country. They have a 0% turnover rate inside the 10-yard line.
Okay.
Look at that. So if UMass gets inside that 10-yard line, if you want to hold them without any kind of points, you better you better block a field goal or something, because they are not going to turn the ball over inside your 10-yard line. All right.
Well, you gotta be able to build around something, bud. Definitely. I mean, it's and I'll let you give our listeners a better idea of it, but it's an offense that goes kind of fast, not super fast. It's kind of out of the Larry Fedora type of coaching philosophy tree. A couple decent components, running back that's not bad, a wide receiver that if he catches it can be fairly explosive, but can also, be more than willing to drop a 3rd and 17 pass that would have gone for 30. So they've got a couple decent pieces here. I don't want to completely write them off, but certainly an offense that Florida State's defense should not suffer too much from, you would think.
If you lose to this team, they should fire the entire coaching staff on the field. Like, straight up. I mean, not acceptable. This team is definitely worse than Jacksonville State, in my opinion. So the quarterback is Brady Olson. Obviously, Walt Bell, I think we mentioned earlier in the show, Walt Bell, former 1-year offensive coordinator under Willie Taggart, took this team over, and some guys just want to be head coaches, and some guys are a little more picky. And I just don't think this was maybe the best job to take. I knew some guys on the staff before Bell took over, and they basically told me, Bud, we should absolutely drop down to FCS. Like, we have no business being in FBS. And their power ratings suggest that. I mean, I think Sagarin has like 175 in the country, which is like 40 FCS teams are probably better. I don't even know if this team would make the FCS playoffs. So yeah, don't lose to this team. Obviously, you lost Jacksonville State. Not a good thing. I know Norvell this week was sort of like dissatisfied with the inconsistency of practices, and following the North Carolina game, you talked about how they turned a corner. It's a whole new team, and yet this week you're not really happy with some of the inconsistencies in practice. And I don't know. I think it's unrealistic to think that this team is going to practice with great consistency. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I should be wrong on that, but I think I'm going to be right on that. So Walt Bell, like you said, they're kind of a spread team, like Fedora. They'll do some RPO stuff. Tempo's kind of moderate. They do honestly line up and chuck the ball deep on these sort of go routes that haven't even developed yet. Mostly because I think they really can't pass protect, but they have some funky numbers. So I'll get into them. Brady Olson, the quarterback, I don't think he's like that bad, but he's certainly one of the worst quarterbacks you faced this year. 52% completions, 6-4 touchdown interception ratio, 5.4 adjusted per attempt. He's not even really the planned starter. Tyler Lytle, who was at Rice, I think, before this? I remember the name. He played the first game against Pitt and then got hurt. But Olson's been playing most of the game since and does have the majority of their snaps. Kind of equally bad against man and zone. Running back Ellis Merriweather is kind of decent. I mean, not special, but his yards per carry is fine. His success rate, relative to everything else on my screen here, is okay. He had some nice stats against UMass. Their receivers, as you mentioned, like Rico Arnold, I actually do think has some nice upside. I'm trying to be nice here. He averages 15 yards a catch, which is not terrible. He also has a 15% drop rate. So it's really not what you're looking for. That's like off game Tamari and Terry level, and that's not really what you want. Without the upside, obviously, of like good game Tamari and Terry. They are absolutely horrendous at converting third downs. Almost all of their first downs come on first or second down, which basically means they catch a defense off guard somehow. On third down, they're 128th in the country in third and medium success rate. They are 128th in the country in third and long success rate. They just don't convert third downs. They don't stay on the field. They punt a whole heck of a lot. Their run game, I think, is better than their pass game overall, but they basically don't ever hit explosive runs. The only explosive plays this team hit so far this year pretty much are through the air. And here's a funky stat for you, right? They actually don't allow much pressure at all. Like they're 41st in sack rate, and you would think something this bad would be much worse than that. They're 36th in passing down sack rate. Nobody blitzes them. They're basically like they're 24th in blitzes faced, like to the good. Pressure rate's not that bad. And so my thought is, what the hell are they doing? So I actually went back and watched, like, not a full game, but I watched some full drives and found some of these third downs. And they're kind of just getting the ball and taking like a step or two and chucking it up and hoping one of their guys can run under it. Which, if you can't pass protect and you got to get the ball down the field, like, I guess that's the way to do it.
Very evolved offensive philosophy that we're talking about. It sounds like. No.
Yeah, I mean, this team should be in the FCS.
They should. Before we transition over to the defense, which is really kind of the weaker of the two units that we're about to talk about, I'll let you talk about the good people over there with Shannon and Chad, the team they built. Had another listener reach out to me directly, and I put in touch with Shannon. I think that's 2 episodes in a row I might have merged them. Put him in touch with Shannon. Said immediately contacted me looking to refi, and you would know better than most, bud.
Dude, that is absolutely awesome. Did we already give a shout out to Matt and Lynn in Jacksonville? I think that's the last email.
I think we did mention that.
Hashtag clock is ticking on Manny. I love Shannon's hashtags that he sends us with the emails. Also had hashtag beat UMass, but gosh, if we need a hashtag for that. 844 FSU loan is the number to call. I've used these guys twice. It's just an awesome experience. Nobody wants to go through the mortgage process, but everybody wants to get a home. So you got to have somebody to do it with, and you might as well go with somebody who has great rates, awesome knowledge of the market, proven track record of customer service. More than 200 Nolecast listeners have decided to make the legendary choice. 844 FSU loan. Give Shannon and Chad a call. 844 FSU loan. And with that, let's go ahead and talk some UMass defense. Oh boy.
Like we said, this is the weaker of the two units that we just profiled. This may be, one of the worst 3 to 5 units in the country when it comes to defensive ball. They do run kind of a 4-2-5 look. You would like to think that the strides that you saw at offensive line, in particular against UNC, are going to continue. You'd certainly, if they don't continue in this game, if you don't see a healthier offensive line, I don't want to use the term dominant, but this certainly shouldn't be a day where there's a ton of defenders running around the backfield or anything like that. You've got your 2 tackles in place, your center. Hopefully they're a little bit more healthy over the past 12 days. The interior guys, you'll use as needed and as you can, and hopefully be able to rotate those 3. But this should be a good day for the offensive line, good day for the offense in general. This is legitimately one of the worst units in the country.
Yeah, I have them tied as the worst defense in the nation with Arkansas State. If you expand out a couple decimal points, it's actually Arkansas State. So very, very barely Arkansas State is the worst defense, but UMass is right there with them. Ingram, they do not do anything well, at all. Some of these offenses that they've played are just straight up bad. And they still gave up a ton of yards and points to these offenses. They are allowing 68% completions on an average air yards of 9.5. Their linebackers in coverage make FSU look like they have a bunch of Telvin Smith clones in comparison. They really, their backers can't run. It's a problem because they can't play 8 defensive backs, right? They don't rush the passer at all. They're 121st in pressure rate, like 119th in sack rate. They don't get after the passer. They allow big plays at a tremendous clip. I mean, 14% of all plays faced have gone for 20 plus. I mean, that's quite a bit, obviously. So, I mean, if you're facing 70 plays a game and you're averaging, allowing 5 plays of 20 plus, that's, not great. There's just not a lot here. Size wise, they're okay. Defensive tackles are like 305, 285. So that's not tiny. Not a ton of athleticism from that group. They got 2 guys who are okay. I think Deshaun Ross actually, he makes a lot of tackles for them. Bryce Watts is probably their best defender, in my opinion, at least. He has the highest havoc rate. He's like 3rd on the team in tackles. He's got some run stuffs on his own, even though he's a DB. Like, that's kind of the name you'll probably hear on the broadcast. But overall, this team does not do really much at all. Devin Baldwin is a guy who he's their best pass rusher, and yet he only has 2 pressures on the season. Although they might argue Billy Wooden's their best pass rusher, but I don't know. It's kind of split. Anyway, this is sort of probably turning the listeners off. This is not a good defense at all. I mean, at all. This is, you should score 40 plus and probably 50 plus in this game. But I do have some questions for you here.
Yeah, that's the much more interesting. If we still have the listeners after debating about who's the worst person,
worst defense in the country, yeah.
All right. Do you need to score 50, 40? I mean, do you really want to? And how do you get there? It is kind of what I'm saying there is, do you really just want to run Jordan and really turn the offense into what it has to be? At the same time, you've messed about and took an L in a game where you tried to be cute and run some stuff that's still kind of mysterious to me. But what do you expect to see? Because I mean, you certainly you're going to win this game, almost certainly. Like what Bud said at the beginning. I certainly hope in the 10 years that we've done this, the most downloaded clip ever is not you saying that the coaching staff needs to be fired on the field before they leave the field. But when you look at this game, and then you look at the physical team after physical team after physical team following, as physical as you're going to see in the ACC, it'll be interesting. Case in roster management, I guess, is a real long-winded way of me saying that. I'll be fascinated how you get there, how much of the offense you really want to run, how many hits you want to expose Jordan to. That part of the game is far and away kind of the most intriguing part of it as we sit here on a Thursday, looking to jump back into the schedule after the bye week.
I agree, right? Because look, a hit is a hit. All these guys are on scholarship. They may not be Alabama level defenders or Georgia guys or whatever, but they're a hit is a hit. And let's think about what is the reason why this offense is all of a sudden working. It's because you got some guys back healthy. It's not like they didn't try a whole bunch of stuff previous, but Jordan was missing practice with various elements. You had a whole lot of offensive linemen who were out and missing. I think 4 of your better ones at one point were out. You get those guys back, you get a tiny sliver of health, and you're able to put some offense together. How much do you want to run Jordan is kind of my main question for this game. If you wanted to run Jordan Travis a lot, I think you could hit a whole bunch of explosive plays, and I think you could put up 55 or 60 if you felt like it. But how much do you want him hit? I mean, ask Derwin James about taking a hit against a nothing team, right? I would probably hand the ball off quite a bit in this game. If it means a couple fewer explosive plays, I think that's probably okay. Work on some of the play action passing more in this thing just to get some comfort and some rhythm. We do know that Jordan threw the ball better in fall camp than he had at any other point in his time in Tallahassee. To this point, we have not seen that translate to the game field very much. Last week, they didn't throw the ball hardly at all. Well, last time they played, they're coming off a bye week. They had, 13 passes, I think, dude, and 11 completions, which is a nice percentage, but it's still just 13 passes. So I would chuck the ball around more here. I would. I wouldn't put the ball in Jordan's hands running wise a whole lot. If you want to have him, fake it or whatever, that's fine. I'd give a heavy workload to the backs, maybe spread that workload around to the backs as well, and see what you can do there. But I don't know that your optimal strategy here for long-term health of the season is the same strategy that would produce the most points.
Well said. More or less kind of what I was talking about there as far as what you could do, how you want to try to balance things, and what it looks like as you really kind of roll into the meat of your schedule. Anything else we need to dedicate necessarily to UMass, or are we comfortable kind of moving into the recruiting and listener question or two before we duck on out?
Do you want to give like a score prediction?
34-9.
All right. 49-14. So, all right. Yeah, I think they'll still hit some explosive plays. This defense is pretty damn bad. All right, so let's go ahead and pivot now, probably to congruity, but after that, some interesting listener questions and some recruiting chatter.
Congruity are the good people that we've chosen to pair with, and certainly would encourage you to do that as well. Mount Lewis, great guy who's quite accomplished in the industry and certainly loves working with Nole fans, as I am fond of saying. Give him 5 minutes, give him 10 minutes, 5 minutes to talk about Noles ball and 5 minutes to see whether or not your business would be a good fit with him and his company. You can reach Matt at 844-247-4100 or Knowles at congruityhr.com.
All right. So a couple recruiting updates here. Number one, Trayvon Williams, the 4-star defensive end out of Mississippi, has finally decommitted. We discussed this a couple weeks ago, right? When he told the Clarion Ledger that he was like kind of backing off his commitment and looking around, which is basically kind of like saying a decommitment, but not officially decommitting.
The old re-exploring the recruiting process. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to go to LSU unless LSU gets a coach hired right now. This is a good example of losses have consequences. It is hard to pull elite players from out of state who you don't have a long-term relationship with. If you're 2-4 and you lose Jacksonville State and you're irrelevant on the national stage. Quite frankly, I thought they had a chance maybe to keep him. They could get him back on campus again, mainly because you are having nice success with the defensive end position so far this year. But so is Mississippi State, right? Like they have a really nice defensive line there as well, and they're much closer to home. So at this point, I'd have to think Mississippi State's probably in the driver's seat there, and you're going to have to turn, maybe to an Eddie Kelly, maybe to the transfer portal again here. But you're not going to get a whole lot of elite pass rushers committing to you who don't have some kind of special connection or long-term relationship when you go 2-4, and that's just kind of how it is, right?
Yep. This is the first defection on the recruiting trail that I'll point directly to the results on the field. The other two, I think would have happened regardless.
Yeah.
So I won't get too far into that, but yeah, this is a toughie. Hopefully you can figure out another piece to move into. And, when you take kids from Mississippi, kids that are going to continue to develop and be high profile kids, as a program, you got to get a lot of things right to get through that. It's a pretty decent wall to climb, or at least decent hill to climb. I'll put it that way. So Antavius Woody, long thought to be kind of drifting back towards Auburn. Give us your thoughts there. I know last week you said that might be slightly better place than kind of the general perception there, but where do you feel Florida State stands with Woody right now?
I don't have information that the flip is imminent. I could be wrong. I mean, he might flip by the time you guys hear this podcast. Certainly a lot of crystal balls rolling in for him. Obviously, like the Auburn writers feel pretty good, and FSU needs to find a way to get him back down to campus. He's made some trips to Auburn recently. That's a guy FSU went in on early. He had the grades concerns, the qualifying concerns. FSU really, they greenlit him, showed the faith in him early, and we'll see if he wants to return, that. But Auburn's having a decent year here, and I like the class they're putting together with Eston Harris and potentially with Woody. So we'll have to see what happens there, man. But this would be another one that I think losses do have consequences. You screw around, you lose Jacksonville State, you're not competitive really against Wake Forest or for the most part against Louisville until very late in the game. That's going to hurt you, and it has.
Yeah.
They don't have a whole lot of momentum right now on the trail.
Listener question comes from Michael. He says, sitting here talking with my mom. That's interesting. My mom just texted me, why had the Braves kept Freed in? So I'm guessing that's not going too well. But Michael says, sitting here talking with my mom, who traveled as a marching chief to Ohio State, LSU, and Florida. It's just a couple of stadiums / teams she saw Florida State play. What are y'all's thoughts on Florida State's recent upcoming non-conference opponents? Also, who are some teams you'd love to see us play? As a San Antonio native, I'd love to see a Florida State versus Texas matchup.
Well, I think that these non-conference games are pretty awesome, but also ill-timed. You didn't necessarily know that you were going to be bad when you scheduled it, but I don't think FSU is going to be a good team next year. So having to go play LSU, we'll see what LSU looks like next year. That's going to be an interesting opener. They obviously have the ones coming up with Georgia, and they got Bama as well, I believe.
Yeah, just some team called Alabama. Definitely. Yeah. I think there's two kind of, it's the same discussion. There's two different aspects that you got to touch on here as to one, should you be aggressively scheduling in general? And two, do we need the neutral field nonsense, or are we looking more for home and homes? Yeah, I would love to go as someone who's in a place in their life, and certainly the Nolecast helps here, but the ability to go travel and look at games, different places. I'd love to see Florida State play Washington or Oregon or Stanford. That'd be incredible. Love to see Florida State travel more. The FSU Texas, go out to Austin for 4 days. That would be a whole hell of a lot of fun. I think that the home and home, the ability to travel to a decent school, decent atmosphere, decent campus that your alumni might not otherwise see all that frequently. For the beautiful and great things about college football. And I certainly understand that an athletic department that desperately needs checks is not going to be an athletic department that turns down $5 to $6 million for appearance in some of these games, which is hell what you were getting a couple years ago. I'm sure you're probably getting even more now. So I understand why it's happening. When we talked about this a couple years ago, I said I didn't think Florida State's neutral site games were going to go away. And that's where this athletic department needs to go right now. And the home and home is fantastic. And it's certainly great for the local economy and our friends over at Madison Social and Township and everybody else. But an athletic department that desperately needs money is going to have a hard time turning away these marquee neutral site games.
Also, if you go out there and get waxed, what is the let's think about this, right? You're not competitive in the opening game. People like to be lied to, man. Right? That's why some people don't like this show.
I've heard that.
A lot of people do like this show, but people want to be lied to, right? And they want to feel much better about their team than a realistic view probably is. And if you start out with a cupcake or two, you can actually feel good about your team for a month or for 6 weeks in some cases. If you go out there and just get blasted and you're like, damn, we can have a nice year, but we're not that level. We're not going to contend for the ultimate prize. And that just it's like a blinding flash to the obvious in week one. That's problematic at times. And I wonder, so you get that money for that neutral site game. How about the money you lose in all the successive games because people are checking out?
Yeah. It's a good point. That's why the ideal game, bud, you need to schedule trips to Boulder, go back out to BYU. That was beautiful. Nice places, good schools, a good atmosphere, game that you need to win. That's all the better. But that's a good question, Michael, and something that that type of stuff, we certainly have talked about it previously, but something that we should probably give a little bit more consideration to. But this is probably going to be maybe the shortest Nolecast we've done in like a long time. I don't know.
We don't do a lot of 30-minute episodes.
Not a lot of that aren't instant reactions with me, turning it off so that I can not have to talk anymore about a disappointing loss or whatever else. But yeah, unless there's anything else, that has been one of the shorter shows that I can recall us doing.
There's not a whole lot tonight. We had a couple suggestions for some more Kenny Rillingham and Adam Fuller Truth. Let's do that after a couple more games, right? I don't know. There's one thing we could kind of run through tonight. Things to watch for specifically this weekend. Can Clemson run the ball? Because I think FSU's run defense it's not as good as Pitt's, but FSU's run defense is okay. If Clemson totally gets shut down with the run and they're one-dimensional, that'll be kind of interesting. How does Miami bounce back after you had another difficult loss? I will say they didn't quit against UNC. They deserve credit for not quitting there. I thought they might have quit.
Yeah,
maybe Manny Diaz has something there with all those young guys.
Maybe
playing hard.
There's some broader chatter around that program. That's I'd be concerned about that, but perhaps.
How real is NC State? I think they're a pretty good team, but this is a second consecutive road game. As we know, last week they weren't fortunate to win the game. They were fortunate to win the game, I think, by as much as they did win it. And Boston College obviously had a backup quarterback in. Then again, Miami also has a backup QB in as they go down there this weekend. Florida is on their bye week, so we're not really going to learn a whole lot about Florida here. But I'm just look, man, just get out there, stay healthy. This should be a pretty interesting weekend of college football overall. Who does BC play this weekend? Are they on a bye as well?
Let's check.
No, excuse me. No, they're at Louisville.
Okay,
that'll be another game, right? How well does BC run the ball on Louisville? How many explosive play? Like BC's defense and FSU's defense are kind of comparable in terms of quality of talent, right? They both stop the run pretty well. They both can't stop the pass to save their life. How does Malik Cunningham look against Boston College? Is he hitting explosive plays like he did against Florida State? That game was what, 24-7 or 31-7.5, whatever it was. I'm trying to remember now. That'll be something interesting. I feel like they're comparable units there, and let's see how they do. And I want to see how well they actually throw the football against a Louisville defense that has not been great this year. Just some things that I'll be watching for this weekend. I also want to say, if you guys do watch the Buds Bets live stream that I do, I will actually not be doing that this weekend. So if you want my power numbers Sunday morning, obviously I'm good at college football betting. I know I'm good. This has been an unreal year. 150 and 100 against the spread is nuts. That's stuff people charge like $1,000 a month for and get it. I will send my power numbers out to you guys. I know we got a lot of loyal subscribers out there, listeners for the most part. But ElliottCFB@gmail.com. I'll shoot it out to you guys for free, and then the live show will resume next Sunday. But this Sunday, I'm actually not going to be around. So
it's awesome what you're doing with that, man. You've had a great year. I congratulate you on that. And I don't really bet sports, but I've watched a lot of them, and it's fun to it's fun to watch you have the lines come out, see you process that. I draw all sorts of comparisons to the financial markets in an area that I'm a little more familiar with, but it's a great show. Won't be on this weekend, but if any of our listeners haven't checked it out, I would certainly encourage it. 3:00 on Sunday?
Normally like 3:30-ish. I try to wait for some of the offshores to come out. We don't really talk offshores because legality reasons up, but I'm like, all right, DraftKings and FanDuel are out. And then also like, we know what time the offshores come out. So yeah. I'm looking forward to the instant reaction for you, man.
Yeah. Well, can't wait to do it. Can't wait to do it for this game. So look forward to it as well. Have a great time on your weekend away, bud. For producer Justin, music guy Judson, everybody else associated with the Nolecast. We thank you very much. If you have the opportunity to subscribe, give us 5 stars on whatever podcast provider you find us on. All the good stuff. Know that's appreciated. I'll have the instant for you Saturday, and then we will jump back into the final, real kind of meat of the schedule here in a season that I'm bizarrely excited about seeing how it plays out, being that you started 0-4. So with that, this has
by the
been the
way,
Nolecast. Bud's got one more thing.
my son loved the Halloween lights.
There we go.
For all listeners out there, Ingram made sure he got those Halloween lights with the quickness, and he was so excited to see
Make
it.
sure Bud had a little more work to do around the house before you get out of town. So you're welcome. You're welcome.
I appreciate it, buddy. All right, man. I'll see you soon.
Later.